Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of the TakeCast. Davis Maddock and Brian Hooper here with you the day after the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Now, some of you listening to this are very used to the paywalled version of this program. Brian and I do this twice a month, 3 times a month. Basically, it's kind of our politics, DFS, sim. We get into a lot. This is not going to be the paywalled version of the show. It's going to be a much tamer, more focused version of that show. So if you do like that show that is behind the paywall, or if you like this and you'd like more of that, you can subscribe to patreon.com/Davis Maddock. Brian, we are here on Wednesday, November 6th. The election has been called. Kamala Harris has conceded the United States presidential election to Donald Trump. Donald Trump wins the general election, wins the popular vote. Donald J. Trump becomes the first president since Bush the first time to win the popular vote as a Republican. You probably could have got me on a wager that a Republican would not have ever won the popular vote in my lifetime. You honestly probably could have got me on that. That was more so than Harris losing every battleground state. I think yesterday you could have told me that at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'd be like, yeah, well, it's all pretty close, so why not? But the Republican sweep of the popular vote, I could not have predicted. So there we go. That's where we can start there.
You would have default lost that bet because when you were a baby, Reagan won the popular vote.
I was born in 92, so I don't think so.
Oh, you were born in 92? I thought you were born like 80 something. Okay.
I'm 32.
Well, it's still, did Bush win? Did one of the
No, I meant in my lifetime movie.
I know, but you just make the bet and then you call him out later and then he's got to pay you.
Okay.
Sorry, bro. Definitely that one was shocking. How many more votes do we have left on that? Like, how close is it supposed to get? Do you know? Because he was popular up 5 million votes.
I got to be honest, dude. I went to bed. Yeah, so I probably went to bed on the 5th at about 10:30 because it was also so funny because this is the heart of what I wanted to get at was the polling versus the prediction markets. So I'm watching whatever cable news with my wife and they're like, it's too close to call. Kamala really needs the blue wall, and I'm sitting there looking at on Pinnacle. Trump is minus 800 and it's 95-5 on Polymarket. And I'm like, we can go to bed, this is not a sweat. We don't have to sweat this. And, obviously I'm a left leaning person. I would have preferred Donald Trump to not win the election. I find him pretty distasteful. Whatever. You know what I realized one of the things is I could never vote for a fat person is one of the things I thought. It's like I find that objectionable. Which is just, that's one of my takes. But where I wanted to start with is polling now just basically dust? Like can we think of a time where polling gave us good, unique insight? Like every indication from the polls we got was either this would be close or it would go to Harris. The Seltzer poll that made a big deal. We did a podcast after that it came out. We did one last week after that poll. She had Iowa as Harris +3. That had been a poll that had been super indicative of national results the last couple years. Silver, I believe someone posted on my Discord that as of 10:30 p.m. or 10 p.m. before I went to bed, Harris had it 53-47, or Silver had it 53-47 Harris. I mean, it just feels like polling is basically a thing of the past.
There's like, I think there's 2 different kinds of polls. There's the public polling that you hear of. And then if you're on running campaigns, there's polling that they pay for that I think is a little more accurate. I think there's definitely some differences there. I went to a political party last night for local election thing, and was talking to some politicians who pay for these pollsters, and the
Yeah.
ones they use aren't like the ones that are in the Nate Silver aggregate. And he seems to think that those still have predictive value. So maybe it's just that these guys are all, it's just political polling to try to like get turnout the way they want it. A lot of it, and
So,
Nate can't aggregate his way out of it.
yeah, so that's interesting, but Nate Silver is big enough business, right? Like Nate Silver is, I assume, a relatively rich person, right? Why could Nate not pay for access? Or maybe he doesn't think there's value in it, or maybe he thinks he doesn't need it.
Yeah, maybe he should. I mean, why can't he run his own polling? I mean, you figure that he has enough money.
Yeah, I mean, how scientific is polling really? Isn't it essentially just asking people
No,
what they
I've seen
think?
some of the guys. I actually interviewed for a pollster job years and years ago when I was back in working in politics, and they are hard statistics dudes who work in
Oh,
SQL
sure.
and stuff like that. So
The what I had read and heard a lot leading up to the election was that there was a big herding problem. That effectively this idea that every battleground state reached an equilibrium. Like, oh, every battleground state is 49-48 with with 1.5% of this and 0.7% of that it would be actually so statistically unlikely that all of the battleground states would reflect the same modeling, that there clearly had to have been a herding problem. Now, ask me to diagnose what a herding problem is. Ask me to explain herding in statistical terms. I'm not going to do a very good job of it. But it's kind of like, what it's kind of like, Brian? It's kind of like aggregating projections, where if you aggregate ETR and Cardi and Run the Sims and Saber Sim, then the set of projections you're going to get are going to be so homogenous that you don't actually learn anything, and it's not even particularly directionally accurate. That's not a perfect analogy. It's kind of tortured, but that's the way it seems to me.
I mean, yeah, maybe so. I think because there's a lot of correlation there, that when one state goes, the others can go in that direction. I feel like the Harris campaign had some internal polling that showed she was down pretty bad based on the last 2, 3, 4 weeks of the campaign style. Because remember Biden, they hit him away essentially. Like he barely did any interviews. It was during COVID, so they could
It's
get
like,
away with it.
honestly, doesn't it feel like it's like so hard to remember?
I remember this. I
Yeah.
remember because for a lot of people, he was senile even then, and they just weren't covering it up. And
Isn't
so
that funny?
people,
He was younger then than Trump is now.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, senility, you can that can start early too, and it can start late.
Sure.
If it's an actual medical issue, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's 85-year-olds who are super sharp, but
Yeah, Dianne Feinstein, super sharp.
Passed away, buddy.
That was the joke, brother.
Okay.
Oh, Pelosi. Pelosi's almost 90, isn't she?
She's up there for sure.
Nancy Pelosi. How old is she?
Let me guess.
84. 85. Sorry. She's 84.
Because she took a picture with Kennedy. So JFK. So it had to be before 63. She looked like she was 20 years old or so, like younger, like 18.
My
maybe.
God.
She like her just the politicos in her regime cohort is another super interesting aspect of all this, because the Biden maneuver in 2020, I think, was like one of the great modern political maneuvers of a political party machine, regime, whatever you want to call it. I think they're regimes, but they identified someone who they thought could win. Turns out they were right. They then got
Biden's favorability. It's so hard for people to remember this, but Biden's favorability used to be very high. He was kind of like not a real, like definitely not a crazy liberal, not a super leftist, People liked him. He was kind of like Joe Biden was a beloved character on Parks and Rec, like a TV show. Like it was like a funny joke that Leslie Knope had a big crush on Joe Biden. That was like that was like a running joke. He was not a controversial or even particularly partisan figure.
He was kind of the quintessential 90s liberal, I would say.
Exactly.
A
tough on crime lib.
Trump is a 90s liberal.
Oh, yes.
He just
Donald Trump is Bill Clinton, dude. Like,
yeah, kind of. I think the trade, they're not on trade, but a lot of like they, because, but anyways, but let me get my point out with the Biden maneuver was like to coordinate to get all the other candidates to drop out and support him when he wasn't even winning. Really, it would have been he might not have won the primary in 2020. To make everyone happy, to keep Elizabeth Warren in, to hurt Bernie.
I would not have voted for Biden. You know what I realized today, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
Never. Two things. I've never voted for the person I voted for in the primary and the general. And I've never, that's just it. The person I voted for in the primary, I never voted for in the general. I'm 32 years old, by the way. I'm 32.
I want to talk about that later too, if you remind me. Because there's two types of liberals. I was thinking about this in the car ride yesterday back from Chicago, and so the Biden maneuver was a huge like accomplishment. Although disgusting if they did to Bernie, and Bernie's still like supporting.
It is
really sad.
I want to come back to that. Continue your thought before I interrupt you.
So they have this great political maneuver in 2020. They pull it off. It's a success. It's undeniable. And then they try this one. Now this, and we talk about this on the what's it called? The Patreon feed. The Patreon feed. Like I can't believe that the news isn't like, and just regular everyday people aren't talking about this. Is like the biggest news story, political news story of the modern era, where Biden did not want to drop out. He won a primary legitimately, got millions of votes. And then all of a sudden, less than 24 hours after saying he would take God to remove me from the ballot, he releases a tweet. a tweet. I'm like
Elon's platform.
not even like presidential letterhead that he's dropping out. It's like a soft coup, whatever you want to call it. The powers that be. What's his name? Hirsch, the former New York Times writer, says was like Obama, Pelosi, Schumer, Kamala was in on it too. All got together to like force his hand to drop out. And she didn't, and then nominate her. Like it wasn't a guarantee after he resigns that she's going to get nominated.
No, there was like a 24-hour period there where people were thinking that the Biden administration and the Biden team might have had a different successor in mind. Like the party as a whole might have had. I remember. I think maybe you and I talked about this. Like maybe it would have been Josh Shapiro, this guy who she was considering to be her VP. Yeah. Pete Buttigieg. Like people were like, oh, like what is the Democrats' plan? What is going to occur here? And then he sent the tweet. The Biden account sent the tweet saying we've endorsed Harris to be the presidential candidate. But yeah, right. I mean it is. Me as a registered Democrat, I didn't choose her, and I would not have chosen her. I would have been very unlikely to vote in a primary for. I mean,
there was like a couple hundred. There was really like a handful of people who chose her, and then a couple hundred of super delegates in Chicago who sealed the deal. But there was no voting, right? From the party of democracy, you'd think this would be a huge news story. Imagine this is the conservative epitaph. Imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. But seriously, imagine if like McCain, John McCain was in office, right? And he's saying, I'm not resigning. I'm not resigning. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he tweets he's resigning. And then they install Donald Trump at the RNC with no actual primary after McCain won a primary. Imagine how insane and maniacal and how many books and articles would have been written of that if that happened. It would be never ending, the end of democracy.
I mean, I basically think you're directionally accurate. The thing I would say, though, is there have been many instances of conservative politicians in this country trying to circumvent democracy in many ways. And
this is unprecedented. There's never been anything like this. I mean, in modern times.
Well, in 1968.
And that's different. That's different. Like, first of all, Johnson didn't want to run.
Well, the point I'm going to make is actually, this is like kind of like new information. Hubert Humphrey, who ends up being the Dem, okay. I'm gonna mess the names up. There are three people involved: Robert Kennedy Jr.'s dad, Robert Kennedy Sr., Hubert Humphrey, and Eugene McCarthy. And I forget which way it goes, but I believe it was Hubert Humphrey was secretly financing Eugene McCarthy's run for president for DNC because it was polling votes away from Robert Kennedy. It was basically like kind of
right,
kind of a Manchurian. That's not a Manchurian candidate. No. I don't know what the right framing for that would be, but basically extreme subterfuge.
This happens constantly. So like a lot of libertarian candidates are used this way. So they'll do it in like Illinois. They'll run a libertarian candidate. It's funded by the union. It's funded by the union.
I think,
but it doesn't matter. The point of 68 is not right because in 68 there was a primary. Davis, Johnson resigned. Yeah, so people were voting for these people. Kennedy was assassinated. Yeah. Johnson resigned voluntarily. This was a direct coup. I mean, there's no really other way to put it. And again, if this, there's no way to prove this, but give me a break. If you have an ounce of unbiased brain left in you, not you, Davis, but just someone listening, like, come on. Like if this was McCain and then they forced him out and then installed Trump in an RNC convention, they would lose their fucking shit. Like it was, but anyways, forgetting all that aside, I'm not agreeing with any of even the 2020 thing. I'm just saying this is all political maneuvering. It's all political maneuvering. But the problem was they won in 2020 and they got fucking smoked yesterday. And so, you were talking about, is it the end of polling? Is it the end of this regime?
I mean, I hope so. My hope as someone who believes in a strong social safety net, but is also very against war, but also I mean, we've talked about this on the Patreon stuff before. It's a hard fit for me as a person who believes in many of the core values of liberalism and being very pro-worker and things like that, that the only party that even gives lip service to those things, even if you could argue, and Brian, I'm sure you would argue that in reality, they actually do very little to improve these things when they are actually in office. I have a very hard time because both parties are the party of inflation. And this is the thing that really tilts me. The Democrats just pretend inflation doesn't exist. They just say modern monetary theory, it doesn't matter. We print more money. It's fine. We'll send you a check. They pretend. And then very wisely, I think conservative strategists have picked up that there's like a lot of people on the internet who are angry about inflation and they're mad about their groceries being more expensive and they're mad about the cost of living going up. Now, is any conservative politician who won their election yesterday going to go to Capitol Hill and do one fucking thing to stop the Federal Reserve or change the amount of money that's printed or do it? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. If I would love to be proven wrong. Something that I would very much like to communicate here is that I probably am more on the side of the doomers of being worried about an authoritarian regime and fascism. Brian, I know you don't believe this at all. I do worry about these things. I don't like the idea of national abortion bans. I don't any of this stuff. But the thing is I don't think the conservatives are going to come in and do anything about inflation. I think it is going to be very much business as usual. I think the Federal Reserve is going to run how they've always run. And that is, I kind of just lost my point halfway through there. But the point is, God damn it, I wish someone would just stop printing money. And it just feels like, as someone who cares about that, no one's actually going to do it.
I mean, the evidence, I think, is of history proves you right that it doesn't really matter who gets in there. You know, Tom Woods' line is, it doesn't matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain. And so
that's really true. That's really true in this election. It feels that feels very true because Kamala Harris and John McCain would agree on like everything, and then Donald Trump is going to be, golfing or whatever, and he'll be like, "Dad, do whatever you want."
Well, this is the second gigantic mistake I think the regime made for their own, security. Is they pushed Trump into the arms of a possible new counter elite, which did not have to happen.
Totally. Elon,
Elon, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Chamath.
Yeah, these guys would
guys we don't even know who they are.
Elon used to be a huge lib.
Yeah, they all did.
Yeah, and that is a huge tactical error. It's also, in my opinion, a net bad for society to have. I guess this is, you could argue this is a very naive view from me, but I view the job of government to be a place where people come together to solve problems. And I can hear the eye rolling from a mile away. And when you have people in control of the government who actively hate the government and hate governance, you lose the ability to solve problems, and it all becomes, fucking kabuki theater. It's all a joke. It's all played out on TV. It's all tweets. It's all sports teams. Basically, for a lot of people, watching the election is like watching the Bears game, and I don't like that. I hate that. And it's a huge mistake from the Democrats for the last 10 years. I would argue maybe even further, to be continually pushing the oligarchs away. If you're going to live in an oligarchy, you want the oligarchs on your side.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the role of government is whatever the elites say it is. And you just live in that era. And the way the government changes from a counter elite. And all this voting stuff that we were taught in 8th grade is all bullshit. Like every vote matters. And, if you don't vote, you never change things. When I worked at the Capitol, like your vote, like literally does not matter at all. Like it does not matter. Way less matters than the lobbyists that are there that are shaping the legislation, and the employees there who are writing it, and all that matters way, way fucking more. It's like the libertarian thing too. It's like, it's all, it's all in their head. It's never going to be in reality. The same thing with this, I think government should be there to do good things. It's like, yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? That'd be awesome.
The government, for as much as, and like, I've obviously become conservative is not the word, maybe just more cynical. I mean, cynical is obviously the word, but like, governments still do accomplish things. Like things still do get done. We of course, it's a good country to live in. So you can say our government sucks and is inefficient and all these things. And like, I would agree. And our monetary supply is a huge problem, but like, governments do solve problems. So I just want to put a pin in the polling.
I mean, yeah, but like, like you could cut cancer out with a giant knife. And it's like, yeah, it got rid of the cancer, but you're bleeding to death. So like, yeah, it can solve problems, but cause a lot more. I don't know if the net benefit is there, but yeah, theoretically, again, we're back in theory instead of reality. Theoretically, it could solve some problems, but we've talked about this a million fucking times. The problem is incentives and consequences. There's perverse incentives. They're not everyday incentives that you have at your job or in life, like you trying to get your solo career off. You have all these incentives that get you to work, and you have consequences if you don't do that work. or if you do it poorly, or you piss off your
Right.
fans, you can't pay your bills. They have very little to no consequences for bureaucrats. Like, name a bureaucrat who's ever been in trouble. Name one.
Oh, there have been plenty of bureaucrats.
Yeah, but name one.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. That's not my job. My job is to know who the ninth man is in the Toronto Raptors.
Right, but you can name like murderers, who's serial murderers, right? You can name people, but you can't name any of these guys because they don't get in trouble, and neither do the politicians. You know, and the 8th grade teacher goes, "Well, you can vote them out. That's their consequence, right? They don't get to run for election. Ooh, boo-hoo." Right? So the incentives so you're really relying on their benevolence or their ideology.
Well, in any political system, you are relying on benevolence.
Well, no, there's, again, if we get into theory, you could change incentives and consequences, and also, you know, there's multiple forms of government. It doesn't have to be exactly like ours. It could be something different, but who gives a shit? Because this is the world we're living in. Back to reality is, I think that they pushed Trump to this counter elite. They went too hard. They should have played him like George W. Bush and just made him a buffoon at every stop of the way, in the press, on TV, at Saturday Night Live. You just make him an idiot, adult, blah, 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 just like George W. Bush. And then behind the scenes, you go, "You look really skinny in that suit, Mr. President. You lost weight, man. You're so smart," right? And he would have fucking fallen for it. And then you go, "Oh, we want universal health care," or whatever. And he goes, "Well, you're smart. I can tell you're smart because of all the things you say." And you get him on your side behind TV, and in front of TV, you just make him this laughing stock. But they went too hard. They said he's a fucking Russian asset. They said 3 years of fucking bullshit, getting the whole world riled up that fucking Donald Trump's a Russian asset. And then, you know, lawsuit after lawsuit. And it sounds like, who knows, but it looks like the Department of Justice is rolling back some of these lawsuits against him. Shocking, right? And like, and, you know, and like the everyday guys, like, hey, it's just law, right? If you do something wrong, then they go after you. That's how the law works. It's like, yeah, that's how all these billionaires, you know, they just, you know, they get caught and they go to jail. That's what happens with billionaires. Like, no, they were weaponizing the justice system, and a lot of people didn't fucking like it. And now they're rolling it back.
Yeah, but I do, by the way,
think you disagree with that. My point is they played it too. They fucked up. Their
strategy from top to bottom,
leadership of this regime, they fucked up. The Kamala Harris Biden thing, they fucked up with Trump playing them too hard. And then not only that, they pushed them into this. The reason I'm bringing this up, because we keep meandering, is because you were talking about, will anything ever happen? It might. I would say the odds are it won't, but it might. Like, let's say 25% chance. Like, you know, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would go like 1% chance, 5% chance something's going to happen. Well, now that they pushed him into this, because look at it in 2016. Look at his team: John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, Reince Priebus, right, the head of the RNC. Just all Reince Priebus is the worst. Romneyites. They're all one big blob that we all hate, right? And so, like, nothing was going to fucking happen. They freaked again. Error in strategy by freaking out too hard against him, instead of playing him like a fiddle, which they easily could have. And then they pushed him finally into this new counter elite that actually might do something. And I'm happy for it, because they might cut a significant number of jobs that, I'm telling you, I've worked for the government. There's people sleeping on their fucking desks, like lots of them. Like, I could give you lists of shit you wouldn't believe of the waste of spending. And this at the state level. Imagine the federal level. Just a giant drain on you and everyone you know who's a productive member of society. And so, like, even if they do, 5% of that, like, it would be a boon. And and like, I don't think RFK is going to go in there and sit on his hands. I do not think RFK is going to get in there and sit on his hands.
I mean, he's a crazy person, but I hope that he does, like, ban seed oils and, like, mandate like the presidential fitness test and stuff again. Sign me up. Sign me up for that.
I mean, he's already on MSNBC saying some of the stuff he's going to do, and a lot of it sounds really good. But point being is, if they didn't push these guys, they pushed him over there too. If they didn't play it like this, it would have been fucking Trump, who's never read a goddamn book in his life, just just bloviating nonsense and then going in there and doing nothing. But they fucked up. They pushed him too hard into the arms of all these people who actually do stuff.
So I think we should address something very clear, which is this should have been a pretty easily winnable election against Donald Trump, who I'm sure some portion of the people who either did not vote or voted for him actively hate him, think he's an idiot, think he's stupid, think he's a bad person, think he is a rapist, a criminal.
Maybe not the rapist.
No, I bet there are people who are either
maybe a handful of people, but nothing significant.
I mean, he's been credibly accused of sexual assault.
I'm not saying he hasn't. I mean, we could talk about that, but I'm saying it's the point. I mean, you're like, there's not a significant amount of population that thinks that they voted for a rapist. I just don't believe that.
I believe it.
No.
Or either they didn't vote and would have voted for someone other than Kamala Harris. And I want to make a large point to left-leaning people, that the thought that the reason Kamala Harris lost this election is because she's black or because she's a woman, I think totally excuses the Democrat strategist from the fact that they picked a fairly, like, I don't know about unlikable. Like, I listen to Kamala talk, I'm like, sure, whatever, you're fine. But her policies are ill-defined and very centrist, if not conservative. She's a prosecuting attorney, something that a left-leaning person wouldn't necessarily say is a great fit for a Democrat. It's not really in general the lean that a left-leaning, it's not necessarily where you'd find a ton of left-leaning people, although she was from California. She just was at best a mediocre presidential candidate. And in general, it's a lot easier to inspire people to go out and vote, period, or go out and vote for you if you are giving them something to hope for. To giving, like, the Republican message is basically, one, please vote for us if you hate trans people. But more importantly, we are the party of low inflation. We are going to make your groceries less expensive. We are going to. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do that, because I don't think they will, but that's the message. And that's a good message. People respond to that and resonate with that. What did the Democrats say? The official fucking White House account is tweeting, actually, if you look at it in a certain way, eggs are less expensive. Wages are actually outpacing inflation. They're lying to you. I think in general, it is just you have to run a better campaign. You have to give people something better than I am not Donald Trump. That's why Hillary lost. The Biden election, there's a lot going on. I don't think Biden ever wins without COVID, personally. I think that probably was a legitimate, not a one-outer. You have a straight and flush draw heading to the river. So you've got like 8 outs. You got like 7 outs or something.
Okay. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he hit it, obviously, with COVID. That would be my opinion. And Harris, same deal. It's like, what do I know about Kamala Harris? Like, she's a prosecuting attorney. Her dad seemed like a cool guy. She grew up kind of in Canada. She spent a lot of time in Canada. Like, she was very tough on crime. She
bombed in the 2020 primaries. Tulsi Gabbard embarrassed her.
It's so true. It's like we kind of memory wipe, because she did get picked to be VP, that like all these left-leaning people said, we don't like you 4 years ago. But by and large, I just felt that the campaign did not do a particularly good job, because their message, what was the tagline? What did she always say? We are not going back. And I'm like, give me something better. Move me forward. Give me, when I go fill in my little dot on the ballot, And I did vote for her. I did because I just, and I literally, Brian, I did literally think of you. I was like, I know Brian is just rolling his fucking eyes at me, and I didn't feel good about it. I had to go to the polls anyways because I had to vote for sports betting in Missouri. So I was gonna vote. I was like, I'm either voting for her or I'm writing in Patrick Mahomes. And at the end of the day, I was like, I fucking hate a protest vote. A protest vote is stupid. So I did vote for her. So I guess it worked on me, but to bring it to the larger point, I think a lot of people like me, left-leaning people who went to college, were just like, this sucks. They basically did a coup. This person is basically a centrist, maybe slightly left of center in today's politics. And they didn't run a good campaign. I hate Donald Trump, so I'm never voting for him. I don't have a conservative bone in my body. So I'm either just not voting. I think a lot of people just like me just didn't vote, basically.
We'll see. We'll see in the final numbers. I was just looking at the numbers here on New York Times. It looks like she's going to get a couple more million probably back, but he'll still probably win the popular vote, which is crazy. I would say, it's very hard to change your ideology. It is really, really hard. I remember when I first started listening to like libertarian podcasts or just like a libertarian adjacent, when I was a gigantic lib, working for liberal administration. And like, I just like, as soon as they would talk about any issue, I'd have to turn it off. I just couldn't listen to it. Like they'd say like, the minimum wage actually is not economically blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't listen to it. And it took a couple years to like even give them a chance. Although I'm not a libertarian. That is kind of how I started. Not just believe. I mean, the reason I'm kind of saying that is like, because you're talking to liberals. I would say you don't have to like Donald Trump to kind of see maybe the bigger picture that, you've been lied to quite a bit. Maybe some of this was emotional and you weren't thinking through on a lot of these issues. That doesn't mean Donald Trump is smart or
Kamala shares more of my preferences than Donald Trump does. The only thing
I disagree completely. I think RFK alone on his staff is more.
Well, yeah, but
they're way more.
Oh, that brings me back to a point I wanted to make about 20 minutes ago. Was RFK was like a clear honeypot, basically. Like I think we can all admit now, the Trump campaign was putting him out there to honestly to try and get people like me to vote for Trump. Left-leaning people who are like pro crypto on the internet a lot. Yeah, I think I feel pretty good.
I don't think so, because Trump went after him for a little bit, and RFK kind of was calling truce.
It's great theater, buddy. That is just great TV.
No. I don't think so. I do think it was interesting that he was running. It might have been part of the reason why they decided to stick with Biden during the primaries, though. Like if RFK doesn't win, maybe the powers that be, Pelosi and Obama and everybody go, let's just run a bunch of people against him in the primary, because he won't resign. But if we back a bunch of people, because they could have done that. They could have went to MSNBC and go, hey, just let's say we need an open primary. Start leaking stuff about Biden being old and stuff, right? And it's amazing. Speaking of like being in that mindset, it's like how many people were convinced Biden wasn't senile. And then now, of course, everyone knows it. It's like, how many people on Twitter were defending his senility and then deflecting and saying, oh, Trump's the same or worse. Trump's the same or worse. I mean, in another huge story, no one in the media is talking about it. Biden's still the fucking president.
That is okay. That is very funny. Yeah, no one has asked President Biden what he thinks about any of this. When's the last time?
Now the election's over, are they going to fucking look into this? Like, oh, the guy with the nukes and the commander in chief, we all deemed mentally unfit to run for office.
Well, you know what it is. It's a tacit admission by not only the mainstream media, but like also by us. but like
it's
us
a bureaucratic
as
regime.
that basically like these page clerks, you know, like that basically the deep institutions of Washington D.C. kind of keep it all running more than the person pressing the buttons and signing the papers at the very top. Yeah.
What a news story. Wouldn't it shows how low quality the media has become, that there's not one person there to go like, man, this is a good story. I can get some recognition by looking into this.
Right.
They don't even try it. Don't even fucking try it.
It's true. I mean, that would be like if someone did deep investigative reporting and wrote like a 20,000 word article for the Atlantic about like, this is what it's like in the White House right now. Like they got a bunch of inside sources. Maybe they even got to spend a day inside the White House or something because they have good access. Like that honestly is so true. Like that would be I would read that article. I would maybe even pay what does it cost to get one article from the Atlantic? $1.99 maybe or something.
It's your soul. You have to pay one soul, and then you get all the access you want.
As in one Solana token. That's it.
SOUL, not SOL. Where does Nate Silver end up? What happens to our boy Nate?
So like that's a long way around. I mean, I think the pollsters, there's definitely something to this idea of Trump just makes everyone so crazy. Like it makes lib people crazy because they hate him, and it makes mega people crazy because I don't know. I've never understood the dedication to a politician like that, but there's clearly something about him that makes people crazy. And you could argue, I don't know how convincingly, but you could argue maybe eventually polling actually comes back, snaps back to normal in a non-Trump universe, that maybe there is a future we can all live in where things become more
it's
normal
called
again.
betting markets. It's called legal betting markets.
So that is, we do need to talk about the betting markets. You know, there was this again, my fellow left-leaning people just frustrating the shit out of me. Why couldn't we just admit that poly market was fine? Why can't we just admit that a prediction market is either as good or better than just asking people what they think?
It's all because of the midnight hour fucking 2020 change in election. Be it, whatever happened there, because all the prediction markets, the betting markets, had Trump at like 80, 90, whatever percent at a certain point there.
Yeah.
So they lost credibility. And then all the polling, the same shit would have happened this time if it would have stayed at like whenever he wrote "stop the count," which is one of the greatest tweets of all time. Whenever he wrote "stop the count," if it would have stayed there, Nate Silver would have been so wrong, and the polls would have been so wrong even in 2020. Which, by the way, that isn't all wrong in 2020. He was still way off directionally on Trump on a lot of states. So this is 3 elections in a row he's been off on the same candidate, and we can get the numbers, but I guarantee you the vast majority of his misses were against Trump.
Sure.
I mean, definitely 2016 and 2024, just right there alone.
Yeah.
So that's why many guys don't like him.
People are saying wash goat. That's what they're saying. They're saying he's the wash king. He's like LeBron,
Nate?
He's up there. It's like, look, yeah, sure. He can still put up a 24-8, but it's like a 24-8 you don't feel. It's like some like LeBron lost to the Pistons the other night, played 40 minutes. That's Nate Silver right now, writing his 10,000 word Substacks.
Yeah, I mean, wash goat is because I'm not sure he was the goat, but like I think what he identified an efficiency in that time. It's more like, like when Bob Voulgaris would talk about like there was like second half line inefficiency in NBA for a while, and then they figured it out, and now it's not a good bet. He like figured out through whatever statistical means that like, oh, the Rasmussen polls are, lean Republican. How much do they lean? What if we, adjust for that? What if we adjust for the Seltzer poll for being left leaning, and then adjust them all, and then get a realistic picture of what all these
do we think Seltzer has tweeted?
What's that? Has
Ann Seltzer tweeted? No,
Oh, I don't know.
no tweets. No tweets from Ann
His name
Seltzer.
tweeted.
Yeah, Nate. So
What
what
do you
Nate would
tweet?
say?
Oops.
Well, what Nate would say was, I factored this in the model. In my simulations, this always had a percentage chance of happening. I didn't do anything other than run my model.
Yeah, he has been tweeting. His first tweet, he's talking about one of the theses he got right in this cycle. So he's oblivious. He's oblivious. They were way off. Everyone was off. Not everyone, but
Yeah, even the so like I saw some of this last night of like oh the big Chad, I think Nate Cohn maybe is his name. He's like a Republican pollster. He had it 52-48. It's like no one. Find me the person. I think Utical, by the way, in the Endgame Discord, had some of this. Well, you want to know a secret hack? One simple trick they don't want you to know about. You can pretty much know who is going to win the presidential election outside of the 2020 year. In about 90 minutes once the data starts coming in. Like I knew last night that Trump was going to win when I can't remember if it was CNN or NBC showed a graphic that Trump in Georgia was 53-47 amongst independents and exit polls. Well, all right, that's it. That's over. Shut it down. Trump's going to win. That was at like 7:15. You could have wagered for hours and hours and hours more in Trump stuff. Trump to win Georgia, whatever. There is a lot of money to be made, and this was true in 2020. This was 2020 election was one of my better ever betting experiences. Like the votes were counted, the results were in. We knew who won. You could bet on it for days at relatively attractive prices. Like politics it's like getting to bet on a basketball game after you've already seen the score. You already know.
2020 is though also the reason why those numbers didn't go up as fast as they did, and that Trump probably wasn't.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah,
and Trump wasn't heavily favored as he should have been, even in the betting markets, because they have to get like once it was Trump, because it got to Trump 80% pretty quick. I would say at like 7
by like no.
Yeah,
no, more like
8 Central maybe.
Yeah.
It was getting up to 80%, maybe 830. But because everyone's still thinking, oh, here we go, it's going to go up to 830.
Well, I'll be honest. I was basically waiting for. Oh, actually, she's really getting ahead in Pennsylvania. That's what I was. So what I was waiting for was, they've started to count the votes from Philadelphia, and voter turnout was super high in Philadelphia, and actually, she's going to win Pennsylvania. Oh, and actually, Trump only won Iowa because Iowa closed at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And actually, Trump only won Iowa by 5 points, not 14 points. And, she's going to win Michigan. Oh, she's going to win where I don't know. I've already kind of wiped the electoral math out of my head. But like, even I'm looking at the betting markets. I'm looking at Polymarket 90-10. And I'm like, I don't know. I think because of 2020, because of 2020, I went to bed. Trump was minus 500 when I went to bed, and I woke up and Biden was favored.
Yeah, because 2020 was fucked up, and so like people made a whole bunch of money. Like even a lot of the gambling bros were talking about the popular vote, because the popular vote then was eventually getting up to 60, 70, 80, 90% Trump's going to win. And like, yeah, but they've been counting California. They haven't counted this. You can buy it at 25 cents, bro. You can buy it at 30 cents, and she's going to win the popular vote. Because of 2020, because of 2020, or at least some of the people were doing that. What do you think about this? Changing this slightly back to, if we get in our conspiracy brain here, this is more Patreon stuff, so people could, if they want. What if there isn't a counter elite? There's still just one. There's still just one regime of oligarchs, and just like you were saying with RFK was a setup. Trump's a fall guy. They wanted Trump to win. They've printed $7 trillion during COVID. We're all going to take a bath eventually. The debt is just to service the debt is more than the military budget, over $1 billion a year, right? To pay off our debt, and so they put this buffoon in there.
Is this
And
even a
everything
conspiracy?
tanks.
Is this even a conspiracy theory, or would they maybe admit this to you? Like, are we gonna get a photo of Barack Obama and Elon Musk at a dinner
Just
like this
cigars.
week? Yeah, like
Well, Elon
that.
can't.
That to me is barely a conspiracy theory, barely.
Yeah. Hopefully not. I don't. But like seriously, with Elon, I do think if it's all real, the Elon, man, putting all the chips on the line like that, like, because if he lost, they would cancel a lot of his government contracts for his businesses.
Oh, I don't know. I think
they're saying this on a lot of needed. Rachel Maddow saying like they're going to have to get him to resign from his post or shut the companies down. He's too political. Like that, he like they would try to come after him in Twitter. For sure they would. Give me a break. He had a lot to lose. I think he recognized that he was kind of fucked either way, so he just went all in.
Yeah. I don't know. To be honest with you, that is very hard for me to believe because, again, I just think it's one big club and we ain't in it. And I think Elon's in that club.
This is the biggest argument against the one regime setting Trump up is the reason because they went so hard after him. Like if you want Trump in there to take the fall, why would you get a mugshot? Why would you have, hundreds of millions of dollars in fines? You wouldn't do that. You just get him in there and then fuck him. They went hard at him, real hard, as hard as you can go. And same thing with Elon, right? Like with the Delaware ruling, he was supposed to get like what, 50 million, 50 billion, who knows what the numbers are, from his Tesla contract as the head, because he financed, because like at a certain point Tesla was like going under, and then he financed it with his own money. And then if it succeeded, he gets like this big bonus eventually. And he actually did it. And then the Delaware court ruled he couldn't have it. And he was registered in Delaware, which now he moved to Texas. And that's just a piece of it. They canceled some contracts of his already. Like there's already evidence that they've done it. Like
before I forget, we gotta cover this. The largest tactical error that maybe anyone has ever made. Kamala not doing the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, that is fucking excusable. Like truly, truly so bad that could have, I literally believe this. That could have swung the election. He obviously, Rogan would not have endorsed her the way that he endorsed Trump, but he could have kept her doing that could have kept him from endorsing Trump. And basically like that, then the new normal becomes every presidential candidate goes on Rogan and has a frank discussion about their policies and about the country and whatever. And also, from my perspective, as a reluctant voter, well, maybe I would have learned something about her. Maybe she would have become more likable or more personable or whatever in a less guarded format. I think it's the kind of thing that like whoever her campaign people are, they should never work in the party again, because it is just a joke they did not make that happen.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of what I was getting at with the whole big maneuver from the Biden maneuver to this one is whoever is responsible for the soft coup and the Kamala choice and blah blah blah. Like you got to go. This was too big of a blunder. You're incompetent. Later, like if I was part of that team. And the Rogan thing, it's kind of tough in hindsight, because in hindsight, it's like clearly like you should have done it. But like as someone who I've listened to a ton of Joe Rogan, like obviously a lot of us have, he's not going to go that hard at her.
Exactly. He's like kind of just he kind of just is charmed by whatever he most recently heard.
Yeah. He like she would just have to be prepared for like the immigration, like what he did with Fetterman. Like if Fetterman can handle him, God, the guy had a stroke like 2 years ago. Like Kamala should have been able to handle him. and then you get her prepared for the obvious questions, which would have been immigration and whatever else that was the only controversial thing he had with Fetterman. And the rest would have been him just trying to get to know her. And the reason is because I imagine in their head, Joe Rogan equals Hitler Jr., It's like, oh yeah, well, Joe Rogan's evil. Like, he hunts, he has guns, he's into MMA, he's got to be evil. And so you can't go on there. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was that simple, or they just had so little faith in her that they pulled the trigger. And if that's the case, like, why are you running this candidate?
Why are you running her for president?
Yeah.
No,
But yeah, I agree. They should. And I also said before the election, on election day, that they should have picked Josh Shapiro as VP, because if she loses by 5,000 votes in Pennsylvania, like, he might have been able to get that for, even though he was a surrogate. Maybe not. In hindsight, it did not matter at all. Josh Shapiro dodged the bullet. He's probably like, woo, thank God I wasn't on that fucking disaster.
Josh Shapiro could end up being the future of the Democrat Party.
Yeah,
now.
he's like a Jewish Obama kind of. And so, like, and also it's good. I mean, honestly, Trump winning in a landslide, like, let's leave aside all the hate for Trump for a second, is the best thing to happen for, like,
I was going to say
the temperature of the country.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say you could argue it's the best thing that could happen for the future of left-leaning people, because it might wash out this centrist, we need to be endorsed by Dick Cheney ass politicking.
Oh, I wanted to mention that before we talk about the temperature. The like, when I was talking about the it seemed like the Dems got some internal polling that showed they were actually down by their behavior in the last month of the campaign. And I would say that the Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney strategy had to be part of that. It's like, you're old enough to remember, but, like, Dick Cheney is liberal enemy number one.
He's literally a war criminal, dude.
Yes. Like, every liberal, like Jon Stewart trained millions of liberals to hate Dick Cheney specifically. Right. And, like, the joke that he'll shoot your face off, like, don't they remember, like, who did they have running this campaign? Like, a bunch of 21-year-olds?
That's the only explanation.
Like,
right?
Oh, the Republicans like Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney. They have to, right? Like, that's the type of person that gonna put us over. Like, who was fucking making these decisions? So, like, what a disaster. From start to finish, they were a long shot, I think, now it's clear, but they had a long hill to climb to get her in. They had a short period. She got crushed in 2020 primary, and they didn't even have to deal with the pressure of the obvious coup question. This is, like, for Shapiro, this is good, because, like, now he doesn't have to be part of that. Like, hey, I wasn't on that ticket. Like, like, if it does become a thing, which it probably won't, because they're still in power, and they have a lot of narrative power. But, like, if it does become a thing, like, Biden could have won. Right? I don't think he would have, but he could have.
No, he definitely could have.
Did you see this? It's going kind of viral. CNN clip where was it John King or whoever goes, do you want to see how many counties she outperformed Biden in? He goes, yeah, sure, show me. Boom, blank, 0 counties she outperformed Biden in. 0 counties. So, like, you can't go back and run this simulation 80,000 times. But
the 80,000 sims, man.
I did one tweet on it, but I had like 10 in my head.
That's just gonna be my new bet. I ran 80,000 sims and doing.
That's gonna go a while. That's got some legs. 80,000.
It's a good bet.
Not a good day for Nate and the Natophiles.
All right, I want to close with this, because I think that possibly the last hour of shit that we talked about is actually all completely irrelevant, and there is nothing mysterious about this election. There is no conspiracy. Harris ran a fine campaign. Trump is who he is. Elections might actually just be this easy. That if the economy is generally good for the average person, the incumbent party wins. If the economy is generally bad for the average person, the incumbent party loses. Nothing about the stock market, because the average person has no exposure to the stock market. Go ask your I don't know, your bank teller or the person working the front desk at your gym or whatever. Ask them how their stock portfolio is doing. They're not going to have an answer for you. Is it really just that simple?
I want to say yes.
I think it might be yes.
I want to say yes, but I don't think it is because it's not 2008 anymore. The internet just changed everything.
The internet has a huge impact.
Donald Trump would never have been elected in 2016 without the internet. He would be in jail right now without the internet. Elon Musk, wouldn't be as big as he is without the internet. They changed the narrative. What would happen before is the news would go, Davis Maddox, a bad guy, and here's why. And everyone in the country, minus 10% of the population, would think you're a bad guy. And there's nothing you can do about it. They don't have that kind of power anymore. They thought they did. They don't.
Yeah,
and
they
so,
definitely did think they did.
It's a different world. I think podcasting, this was like kind of the election of the dawn of the podcasting in politics. I think you're going to have to I think the one of the benefits of this, I don't know if that's the right word, but whatever, the reality of the Trump administration is Vivek and RFK and maybe even Vance, maybe not Vance so much, but a lot of these guys, they're going to continue to do podcasts. They're going to have their own podcast. They're going to appear on Rogan. We're going to get updates on what's going on in the administration. And for the foreseeable future, I think you're not going to be able to just pick up a Barack Obama from the north side of Chicago or South Loop, technically, and make him a thing. I think those days are over. I think you're going to have some sort of
TikTok presidents only.
Sure. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. Maybe they have one more in them. We'll see in 2028, but I think it's basically the writing's on the wall that you're going to have.
Well, that's assuming that we have elections in 2028, brother.
Well, that's right. I mean, this was the last election. This was the last one.
I mean it a little bit.
Why? How so?
Well, the Republicans have the Supreme Court, they have the Senate, they have the House. Why not either make Trump's term longer or say that he can be president 3 times or whatever?
I mean,
who is stopping? What is the say Trump gets inaugurated? He says, first thing, I'm making it so that I can be president a 3rd time if I want. No more term limits for presidents. Who stops him?
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking my love language, of course. I hope this happens, not with Trump, but with somebody eventually. But
wait. I just realized why he wouldn't and why Republicans wouldn't want to right now. Well, you'd rig it, but Obama's still alive.
So,
buddy, if Obama came back in an election versus any
but
Republican
if they stop elections, he can't run again.
So that's what I was saying. Well, I'm actually
what you have to do is it's then it's all palace intrigue, right? Then it's the Praetorian Guard has to assassinate the sitting president, then you install Obama, or you install whoever. RFK stabs Trump in the back, and then he gets rid of all the vaccines.
God, it's my worst nightmare to live in an interesting country. Like I don't want like I listen to a lot of like soccer podcasts and stuff, and them knowing and caring about our election, nightmare fuel. You don't want another country to care about your election. Little life hack. You don't want another country to care about your election. If so, it means at large you're doing a bad job.
None of us should be this interested in politics. It should not be that involved in your life. They shouldn't have this much meaning in your life. But they actually do. I'm not saying they don't. They do. Like they take half your shit. If you make any money, they take half your shit. It does directly impact you and all the social complaints, that women have and blah, blah, blah. Like this is all real stuff. Like they should not be this involved in your fucking life.
No, that's so true.
I lost. I had a final point I wanted to make, but I lost it. Maybe it'll come to me in a second.
Well, it can come to you when we do the Patreon show. Maybe you hated this. Maybe you just listened and or watched to the entire thing.
I'm sure a
I
lot of
didn't
people
really.
hated what I had to say.
Well, I didn't really know if I even wanted to do this. It's like because like the Trump people will obviously think I'm a woke crying lib, and
Yeah.
then the Democrat people are going to be like, "What do you mean you reluctantly voted for Kamala Harris? You can't." And now that I am a small business owner, effectively, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more. The
Republicans
consequences
buy
of
shoes too.
Yeah, well, no, not that. More, I'm actually more the other way of being like lib people being like, you're not standing up to Trump. And I'm like, I
It seems
fucking
like
hate.
in your Discord, everyone appreciates it.
Yes,
Not everyone. There's some people who don't like me in there.
no, but the self-selecting people that are in my Discord are like of the exact frame of mind of agreeing with my worldview loosely. Sure, yeah, but that not the wider world, I don't know, but I think elections are interesting, like the
Yeah.
combination of polling and betting and like campaign strat, like because there's a lot of game theory that goes on with elections, and the people that share my preferences don't seem to be particularly good at the game theory, which is
Right.
frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is all you can hope for is people get in there. The people who have power share your preferences. Unfortunately, you have, and this is kind of what I wanted to say too. I now remember is I think this election. I mean, Jonathan Haidt's kind of thesis that we evolved with religion, and the more atheist the society gets, the more that you have to fill that religion hole with something, and it's
totally,
and it's clearly it looks like it's politics.
So or no, it depends on but yes,
sports is that too for some people. Like there's different things.
Tom Holland, not that Tom Holland. Tom Holland, the classic historian, like a Roman expert. He wrote this great book, Dominion, and talks about it all the time on his podcast, The Rest is History, about how like everything is basically Christianity. Like you can kind of look through everything through the lens of Catholicism, Protestantism, and just how the entire Western world changed and how everything can be defined through the morality of Christianity. But obviously we are such a non-religious world, and you totally see that playing out in, basically the political parties are that it's Christian values.
Well, I think it's kind of sort of ironic that the Christians think they won maybe, but really might have happened is politics superseded it. Politics itself becomes even a stronger religious factor than Christianity. So maybe you're not restoring Christianity at all. You're cementing politics being the new religion.
Yeah, no, it's very true. All right, guys, we are going to get out of here. Check out endgamesyndicate.com. If you are listening to this on the audio version of the podcast, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It's very useful, very helpful, and we'll be back next week.